Today we will be continuing with the chapter Trigonometry, and in this section we will be learning how to find the trigonometric function of any magnitude. So to begin, let us try to understand the sign convention rule for all the trigonometric ratios. So in this axis system, so this is the first quadrant, this one being the second, this one is the third, and this one is the fourth quadrant. So remember, add sugar to coffee. Okay, so what does it mean? So add represents all. Okay, so all means all the trigonometric ratios in the first quadrant, it's always positive. That is the sine theta, cos theta, tan theta, cosec theta, then we have sec theta, and we have cot theta. So all the trigonometric values in the first quadrant will always be positive. That means between 0 degree to 90 degree, all of it will be positive. And in the second quadrant, the sugar represents the sine and the cosec. So in the second quadrant, only the sine and the cosec remains positive. Rest of them, all of them, they are negative. And in the third quadrant, only the tan and the cot theta is positive. Rest, all of them, they are negative. And finally, in the last quadrant, only the cos and the sec ratios, it remains positive. But whereas rest, all of them, they are negative. So remember this one. Okay, so let us learn few of the important formula for this section. So the first part, we always remember that the sine of negative theta, sine minus theta is equals to minus sine theta. The second, it is cos of minus theta is equals to cos theta. Okay, so remember only for cos of minus theta, it becomes now the cos theta. And the third one is the tan of minus theta equals to minus tan of theta. Similarly, the reciprocal also holds the same rule like the cosec. Cosec of minus theta, cosec of minus theta will be equal to minus cosec theta. Then we have sec of minus theta will be equals to sec theta. Okay, and then for the cot of minus theta equals to minus cot theta. Now coming to the next set of formulas where we learn about the complementary. Okay, related to 90. So the next set of formula is the first one. If I have sine of 90 minus theta. Okay, so 90 minus theta means 90 minus any angle, it will come into the first quadrant. So all the ratios will be positive. And always remember that in this vertical axis, the trigonometric ratio will change into its complementary. But whereas in horizontal axis, the trigonometric value remains the same. Like here, if I have 90 minus theta, it goes in the first quadrant, so sine will change into cos of theta. I write positive cos because in the first quadrant, everything is positive. So similarly, if I write sine of 90 plus theta, okay, so 90 plus theta, it goes into the first quadrant. Okay, so not first, sorry, the second quadrant. So in second quadrant, you have to see the value of this one. Okay, the sine, it remains positive. So sine will change into cos of theta. Okay, then the second formula I can write the cos of 90 minus theta. So cos of 90 cos changes into the positive sine theta, because in the first quadrant all of them they are positive. But if you see for the value of cos here now, cos of 90 plus theta. Okay, so 90 plus theta, it goes in the second quadrant, and in second quadrant the cos is always negative. So it becomes minus sine theta. Okay, now if I come for the third set of formula, I get cos of, sorry, not cos, I get tan of 90 minus theta. So tan will change into cot, it will be positive cot theta. Similarly, if I write here tan of 90 plus theta, so this will go into the second quadrant. Okay, second quadrant, the tan is negative, so tan changes into cot of theta. Okay, so it's minus cot theta. So similarly, the fourth, if I write cosec, cosec of 90 minus theta, the cosec will change into sec theta. First, let me finish this part. Okay, then I write sec of 90 minus theta. Sec changes into cosec of theta. And finally, I have the sixth. I have here cot. Okay, so cot of 90 minus theta. The cot of 90 minus theta will change into, yes, sorry, so cot will change into tan. Will be tan of theta. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is the set of formulas we have. Okay, so this is how what happens. So if you see in the next portion, you will get the cosec of 90 plus theta. Now see the cosec in the second quadrant is positive, so it will become sec of theta. Then comes sec of 90 plus theta. So sec will change into cosec, but the sec in the second quadrant is negative, so it becomes minus cosec of theta. And finally I have cot of 90 plus theta. So the cot in the second quadrant is negative, so the cot will change into minus tan of theta. So if you see in the second quadrant, only the value of sin theta and the cosec theta remains the positive, and rest of it remains negative. So see, now the next set of formula we have is along the horizontal axis, that is for AP. So let us see here in this axis, the trigonometric value of the ratio it remains the same. Like the first, if I have sine of 180 minus theta. So if you see sine of 180 minus theta, it goes in the second quadrant, and in the second quadrant the sine theta is positive. So I can write sine theta. Sine remains as sine only. The second one, if I write cos of 90, or not 90, sorry, it is 180 minus theta. So 180 minus theta, it goes in the second quadrant. In the second quadrant, the cos is negative. So the value will be minus cos of theta. Okay, so in the same way, we can derive the 12 set of formulas in 180, then same here in 270, and then here in the 360 as well. Okay, so this is all about the formulas related to the trigonometric function of any magnitude. So let us do some of the questions from your exercise and try to understand how do we solve the question based on such problems. Okay, so let's begin. So here I have taken 3 questions from your exercise which helps us to express the following functions of an angle less than 45 degree. So here I have sine of 194, cos of 190, 189, and then the tan of 3598. So we have to express each of these angles in the value less than 45 degrees. So it's very simple. How do you do it? So this I can write, this is equals to sine of, I can write 180 plus, now 194 means it is 180 plus 40 degree. Okay. So now we know that sine 180. So let us see in this coordinate system. So the sine of 180 plus 14. So it is add sugar to coffee. Okay. So 180 plus 14 is, it goes in a which quadrant? The third quadrant. In a third quadrant, the value of sine theta is always remains negative. And also remember, in this horizontal axis, the trigonometric ratio it does not change. So I can write this one as sine of 14 degree. Okay, but here it will be negative. Why negative? Because in the third quadrant, the sine theta remains negative. So simply I got the sine 194 in the angle which is less than 45 degree. That is, here I have 14 degree. So coming to the next question, again if I see here, sine cos of 189. So I can write this one as cos of 189 means I can write 180 plus 9 degrees. Okay, so 180 plus 9, again it goes in a third quadrant. Okay, so in a third quadrant, the cos theta is always negative. So I can write this one as minus cos of how much? 9 degree. Okay, so I have also learned that cos of minus theta. Okay, so 9 degree. So which is in the angle less than the 45 degree. Now coming to the last one, you get the value of tan of 3598. So what is this? This is a very large. Okay, so what can I do in this case? So I will write this one as, this will be equals to tan of, now 3598. So I will write this one as, 10 into 360. So 10 into 360 gives me 3600. So if I subtract 2 from there, I will get this value to be minus 2. Okay, so now this axis is a 360. So if I revolve it 10 times, so from here it becomes 1, 2, 3. So in the 10 rotation, it comes into the same axis. This is the first axis, that is the positive axis. So minus 2, it goes in a third quadrant, not third, fourth quadrant. That means 360 minus any angle, not any angle, minus 2, obviously it comes in a fourth quadrant. And in a fourth quadrant, what happens? The value of trigonometric function, that is the tan theta, here is negative. And also remember that in a horizontal axis, the trigonometric function change. So I can write this one as minus tan of how much? 2 degree. Okay, so this is how we solve this kind of question. So another question I have taken, question number 8 of a textbook. Okay, so to solve this, what we do? We simply apply those formulas which we have learned in the beginning. Okay, so sine of 90 minus theta, it goes in the first quadrant and the sign changes to cos. Okay, so it becomes cos of theta into sec of 180 minus theta. So this is 180. So 180 minus theta it goes in the second quadrant, and in the second quadrant the sec is negative. So it becomes minus sec of theta. Okay, now coming to the third one, sine of minus theta is already a minus sine theta. Okay, so divided by, now sine of 180 plus theta, sine of 180 plus theta, it goes in a third quadrant, and in the third quadrant the sign is negative, but the sign remains as sine. So I will write this one as sine minus sine of theta. Now coming to the second, cot of 360 minus theta. 360 minus theta, it goes in a fourth quadrant, and in the fourth quadrant the cot is negative, but along this horizontal axis the trigonometric function remains the same. So cot remains as cot, but it becomes minus cot of theta. And finally I have the cosec of 90 plus theta. So 90 plus theta, it comes in a second quadrant, and in the second quadrant the cosec is positive, but in this vertical axis the cosec will change into sec. Okay, so into that I can write into sec of theta. Now if anything cancels, you can cancel it out, like minus sin theta, minus sin theta, it cancels. Okay, then sec theta and sec theta, it cancels. So what is the meaning? Here I have minus cos of theta divided by, in the denominator I have minus cot of theta. So minus minus again cancels, so equals to cos theta divided by, now 1 by cot means it is tan. Okay, so into, I can write tan theta, or I can write cos theta into tan theta, again I can write it as sin theta divided by cos theta. So cos theta plus they cancel, so finally I have the value of sin theta. So this is how we solve this kind of questions. So now I want you all to complete this exercise 4D from your textbook, so that we can move on to the next topic in the trigonometry. Thank you.